Hello guys, welcome to the video. My name's Ben, this is Rebecca. We are His and Hers Vlogs. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Today's video is taking place from a really awesome little campsite on the shores of Lake Mead. So there are quite a few people around. You might hear some noises, but that is just real life. And you know what? We live in a 13-foot box.
So today we're going to talk about tiny living tips that we've come up with over the last 18 months of living in this little box. They are applicable whether you live in a tiny space on wheels or any other kind of tiny home.
I'll start with a little bit of our backstory. We travel in a 4x4 expedition vehicle. It is a Mitsubishi Fuso chassis, mobile home on wheels, but the box is small. 13 feet long, 6.5 feet wide, and maybe 6 feet 4 on the inside. Definitely tiny living, which requires extreme measures.
So we switched from a Class A to this truck, and essentially the camper got smaller, but the world got a lot bigger. And you might be thinking, it's not that big of a deal to do something like this because everything you need to live you could fit in a backpack, which for you as a person is true. But the camper, the truck, the kitchen, the bedding, it all adds up, and the camper itself has needs, and that takes up space.
Living full-time in something this small requires balance. You might think that, yeah, I can shove all kinds of stuff in there, but when you're living full-time and traveling every single day, everything needs to have a place so you're not living in a completely cluttered environment.
Before we get started with our tips, I want to be sure that you guys go check out our website, www.hisandhershub.com. You can access everything we have to offer, including newsletters, a course about location independence, videos, all kinds of great things like ebooks, and the list goes on. Be sure to check it out. And as far as the tips go, make sure you stick around to the very last one because we're going to save the best and the hardest one for last.
Starting off with tip number 1. Before we head inside, you need to get your mind in the right place. It is all about mindset when you are living in something this small. And you also got to remember, not everything is forever. Some things can come into the camper, but some things have to go out. Just remember to have your mind in the right place.
Before we head inside the truck, tip number 2. Everything should have a purpose and everything should be in use. If things do not fit those 2 criteria, they don't belong in your home.
Number 3, set realistic expectations. For example, a love seat recliner set is not going to fit inside this camper box, but make sure you live in the reality and the now so you do not set yourself up for disappointment.
Tip number 4, try to have multiple purposes for various components of your rig. For example, our bed. At night, we sleep east-west. We call it night bed. During the day, to make it more like a couch, we put our pillows on the back. We call it day bed, dual purpose. Another example, our wet bath. You don't really need a dry bathroom in this kind of space. Another example, the sink. Do you really need a sink in the bathroom and the kitchen when they're across the hall from each other? Not so much.
Number 5, make the most of your usable space. For example, we live in a box. A box has 90-degree angles, so why would you want to buy round things when you can buy stuff with square angles?
Tip number 6, let's talk a little bit more about packing. First of all, sometimes things have to go into deeper storage, and they're not going to be readily accessible like you're used to in a big house. Again, notice our 90-degree angles. We apply them back here too. Secondly, you'll note we really Tetris everything in. It's like playing a puzzle game every time we pack back up.
Number 7, it's time to talk about baskets. And what they do is they make the most out of your space because you can get to everything in the back of the basket. And if you're traveling in extreme climates like we are, this provides airflow in the back of your cabinets. When we were on the Alaska Highway a couple months ago, We were having all kinds of freezing up issues. If we did not have airflow around those baskets, it would have been a disaster in the cabinets.
Tip number 8, use Plano boxes. I used to use these to store beads. Ben uses them to store fishing gear. They also do wonders for storing your personal care items.
Number 9, make sure you're utilizing all of your wall space, but keep in mind it's going to require balance as well. We have quite a few solutions on the walls of our camper. This is one of them. It holds so many priceless items that we're taking up space in our cabinets.
Tip number 10, utilize Headspace. Now for our specific rig, this isn't really feasible. Our roof is only about 6'4", Ben is 6 feet. We don't really have room to utilize Headspace. But if you do, you can hang nets above your dinette, above your bed. They are perfect for soft, lightweight items.
Number 11, it's all about the hooks. Whether they are command hooks or actual hooks screwed into the walls, they are an amazing resource because you can hang your things. Cut and dry. That's it. Make the most of that wall space, guys.
Tip number 12, store things upright whenever possible. And this is one of my perfect examples. We actually used an office organizer so that all of our utensils and little things out of the kitchen can be set upright.
Number 13, if you're traveling in a vehicle, you can take things in and out every night. For example, camp chairs. They are a perfect item, and we also do the same with firewood.
I'm going to do tip number 14 and 15 together because they both have to do with towels. Starting with 14, buy thin, lightweight bath towels. They dry quickly and easily. They also store very efficiently. I also use Turby twists for my long hair instead of a big old bath towel. And then tip number 15, you can make these or, like I did, buy them by accident, but towels with hooks on them. Super convenient for storage. I will never go without towels like this again.
Number 16, buy things in miniature sizes. For example, you don't need a 6D cell flashlight anymore. We can get these small LEDs. Or why do you need a full-length broom and a giant dustpan when you can get a little jobber like this?
Tip number 17, buy small appliances. And this serves two purposes. Number 1, they take up less space, but number 2, they also use less wattage. A couple of examples that we have, the Hot Logic Mini. We do not have an actual oven, so this does some food cooking for us and is very tiny and compact. We also have a very tiny little teapot, little inconvenient with this weird shaped spout, but works like one magic and it's very low wattage. Lastly, an Instant Pot Mini. Again, tiny, low wattage. You're kind of seeing a trend here.
Number 18, look to minimize space. And the example I'm going to use for this is my tool bag. It is not a very specific tool bag, but what it does do is it allows me to plop all of my tools right here into the bottom instead of those hard-sided cases where there's one wrench and all your row of sockets. That is a complete waste of space. This is, relatively collapsible, so what space that is not being used, I can monopolize on.
Tip number 19, to roll or to fold your clothes? That is the question. So this is not just for show. Ben actually folds his clothes and I actually roll mine. It's just a matter of preference. I don't really know if it makes a difference on space, but I kind of feel like I have more space if I roll. Ben doesn't probably carry as many clothes as me, so he's fine with folding.
Number 20, learn to embrace outdoor living. That either means chasing the weather or choosing a stationary environment that has perfect weather. For example, a place like San Diego.
Tip number 21, bring some items of recreation with you that are easy to store. For example, inflatable kayaks and foldable bikes. This is a couple of things we're still working on getting. We are sorting out storage solutions for them, but looking forward to having them in the very near future.
Number 22 is one that we really need to work on ourselves, but make your DVD collection digital. We have a 12-volt TV DVD combo. Multi-uses there, guys. Also runs off the 12-volt, but we have a massive DVD collection that needs to get put onto something. We've just never been able to find the time.
Tip number 23, utilize compact entertainment. Whether we're talking Kindles and Game Boys, so kind of new age digital, or old school compact dominoes and decks of cards, you spend a lot of time off grid if you're like us. It's kind of fun to have some things to do, but they need to take up tiny amounts of space.
Tip number 24, don't go to Costco for the bulk items. Do you really need 2 gallons of avocado oil or 10 pounds of peanut butter? No, you don't when you're living in a 13-foot box.
Tip number 25, when you go shopping, get rid of all of that superfluous packaging. Perfect example, the boxes that your cookies, crackers, cereals come in, the clamshells that your produce comes in, all of it takes up unnecessary space. You'll be so much happier if you get rid of it the minute you bring it into the truck.
Number 26, in a space this small, you do not need a big old cutting board. They make these great mats. And you know what? If that is too big, cut them in half and they work even better.
Tip number 27, use stackable storage products. So for example here, I've got silicone, stackable, and collapsible food storage. We also have stackable silicone cups. And we even have reusable Ziplocs. We pick one to store all of the others in, so they don't take up very much space.
Number 28, try to search for a multi-purpose cleaner that you like and that can take care of everything inside your living quarters. For example, we like this Shackley Basic H2. One of these bottles at our house even will last us 2 or 3 years. It only takes drops to mix up the solution, and this is a little spray bottle from Walmart.
Tip number 29, when there are more than one of you in the space, share things like shampoo and body soap and toothpaste. You really don't need more than one of each thing, and everybody can compromise and find something they all like.
Number 30, last and most difficult, you're going to have to learn to say no. Say no to yourself and be disciplined, but you're also going to have to say no to other people. For example, we were just at an event this last week and they gave us a goodie bag. There were a lot of things that didn't make the cut, but those silicone cups did.
That's right. And friends and family do, over time, learn to give you tiny gifts.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining us today. We hope that these 30 tips help you to live more comfortably in your tiny space. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.